Welcome back to the Right Future YouTube show. Today we are going to talk Trump. So, Saturday, March 18th, for those of us who aren't on Trump's social media platform, we found out through news blasts that Trump had announced on said platform that he is going to be indicted by the Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg this coming up Tuesday, March 21st. Now, the Manhattan District Attorney has not spoken about this. They have not released information about this. All we have is Trump's grandiose announcement on said platform. So we don't know what this is about. We know last week his former personal attorney and fixer, Michael Cohen, appeared in front of the grand jury, and most believe that is about the hush payments that Trump paid during his 2016 campaign to porn star Stormy Daniels after he had an affair with her a couple of months after Trump's wife gave birth to his son Barron. And this is, again, the religious right group right here, the moral police of the Republican Party. That's who supports Donald Trump, but that's not what this is about. So that is what most people believe, most experts believe, the Manhattan DA is investigating. And that is interesting because that is a potential for Trump to actually have the political motives stick, because the district attorney previous to Alvin Bragg shut down this investigation. Alvin Bragg got elected as Manhattan district attorney in 2021, I believe, and then he reopened the case and was pushed by the progressive base who helped him get elected Manhattan DA. So I want, and I encourage everybody, whether you're pro-Trump or anti-Trump, normally you'd say you're somewhere in the middle, but we all know with Trump, you either are pro-Trump and a follower. I don't necessarily want to say supporter, because his followers have more of a personal attachment to Trump than politics, or whether you're like me and completely anti-Trump. We all know with Trump there ain't much in the middle. There's not very many people who are like, I could come or go on Trump. There's no gray area there. But whether you are in either of whatever camp you're in, caution on this. One, we don't know that Trump is telling the truth, that he's going to be indicted on Tuesday. We don't know. Two, we don't know the charges. We have Democrats and progressives celebrating that, Trump is finally going to be held accountable for one of the criminal things he did in his life. We don't know what he did was criminal. In fact, if it is hush money, I'm really interested in seeing these charges, because that happens all the time among these elites. And Trump tries to portray himself as one of the people. He's as elite as it comes. And we know affairs with these kind of elites and NDAs are commonplace. So if there's going to be some kind of hush money, that's interesting, because it isn't, as some on Twitter have supposed, like John Edwards' corruption case or a fundraising issue, because this was because the presidency is a federal office, obviously, and that is not under the jurisdiction of the Manhattan District Attorney. That is under the jurisdiction of the Department of Justice, and we know that the Department of Justice is investigating a lot of stuff around Trump, but that is not one of them. Or at least we think we know that. So it's hard to know what exactly this could be on criminal charges without it being this hush money. We know that the city of New York and the state of New York are civilly going after Trump's business, the Trump Organization, for fraud and tax evasion. So he's got a lot on his plate. But nobody should be going out and either defending him or celebrating these, because, again, we don't know what is happening. We don't have information. All we have is one man saying in an echo chamber with basically only his supporters. And if you're not a supporter, by the way, he blocks you. This is supposedly a First Amendment safe space. That's all we know is what he said. And he's not exactly the definition of truth. He's the definition of the opposite of truth. But we don't know that he's lying. We have to wait until Tuesday to figure this out. And let's all just waiting isn't commonplace in the social media atmosphere, but that is what is needed right now. We need everybody to take a breath and to wait and see what happens. And we're talking about this, so let's briefly discuss the other investigations. The investigation that I personally thought he was most in danger of getting indicted for is Fulton County in Georgia, the Georgia investigation. Whether it is the fake elector scheme, what we know he was personally and integrally involved in, or more importantly, the investigation, which the evidence of his guilt is in public, right? We heard him tell Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger to illegally find 11,780 votes, which is one more vote than he lost the state of Georgia by. And later on in that call, he threatened Brad Raffensperger, the Georgia Secretary of State, and his personal lawyer, saying, if you don't do this, you could be held criminally liable because we know the election was stolen in Georgia. It wasn't. But that's an open and shut. And obviously they've done lots of investigatory work. They had a special grand jury, which does not actually present charges, and it just recommends the charges that the DA goes to an actual grand jury, if they so choose, to ask the grand jury to do. That's a lot of grand jury speak, but they recommend charges for the DA to recommend the actual grand jury to do. It complicated if you're not a lawyer. I'm not, but the holdup there is the special grand jury forewoman. One seems to be a little bonkers. She seems to have some screws loose, some wires crossed up there. She did a bunch of TV interviews, grabbing 15 minutes of fame, and it really hurt Fulton County DA Fannie Willis's ability to say, hey, this has nothing to do with politics, because she grabbed that 15 minutes of fame and ran with it. And like I said, I don't know much about the fake elector thing, because a lot of that investigation has been behind closed doors, and a lot of it is just liberal, progressive, far left MSNBC talking points. So I don't know. We don't have much information about that. So I don't know if there are actually charges coming there. But the forewoman said that we wouldn't be surprised about indictments, and the list wasn't short that they recommended in terms of people and charges. But her speaking publicly, and it was cringe. I don't like to use that word too much because it's floated around on social media too much, but in pretty much every televised interview, it was cringe. The New York Times interview, which is obviously in print, read like she was saying, and it was a serious interview, where these other ones, these televised interviews, not good. But that seemed like the most threatening investigation, and that's kind of been slowed, and I believe a lot of the slowness is this poor woman named Emily Kors. I think Fulton County DA Fannie Willis is just trying to give time for that memory to fade in people's minds. Obviously, there's the video that is never going away, but let the memory fade about her doing those TV interviews. And then we have the federal special counsel investigation headed by Special Prosecutor Jack Smith. Now, there are multiple investigations that Jack Smith, the special prosecutor, is overseeing, one of which is the classified documents case. Now, I expect I thought previously this classified documents case was an open and shut case and Trump was going to get charged with that and it was going down. But then we found classified documents at Biden's political think tank, which I did a video on, and in his garage next to his Corvette, which was a locked garage, but his son Hunter had open access to the Corvette and the garage. And sometimes Hunter worked out of said garage. And part of Hunter's work was on this Ukrainian energy company called Burisma when Joe Biden was vice president. And by the way, most of the documents were from when he was vice president. And lo and behold, President Obama put Vice President Biden in charge of Ukraine foreign policy. And the other one was China, where Hunter Biden was also doing foreign work for. So, let's be honest, he probably had access to classified documents that he shouldn't have had access to. And then we found, I believe, 2 pieces of classified documents at Mike Pence's office in his home. So this is just going to fade away now. They can't charge the president because, as we know from when Trump was president, there is a memo that says you can't charge an incumbent president, with a federal crime, which is one of the reasons Donald Trump is so eager to become president again, is he needs that immunity. Obviously, you have the fake elector scheme that they talked about from Georgia, but they did this all over the country in Georgia, in Arizona, and Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, maybe some other states, but those are the ones I know for sure. Again, I don't know much about that. I don't know how that's illegal because the Constitution says electors are nominated by the state legislatures, are picked by the state legislatures. So I don't know how that's illegal or not. That is over my head in legal. That's legal expertise needed there, and I don't have it. And the other one is inciting the riot on January 6th, which he did. Listen to the speech. He told the people who were there to go to the Capitol and to fight for him, which they did. And Chris Rock funnily said it was like watching the Planet of the Apes. They were climbing the walls of the Capitol building, breaking windows. We saw this live. We don't need Tucker Carlson's edited fake narrative of what happened on that day. I watched it live. Most people did too. It was horrific. And while most House people who are House members of the Republican Party, who are very captive to Trump, came to his defense, Senate Republicans, who are less owned by Trump, should I say, came out and all went like, yo, this was a bad day. These were Trump supporters. We shouldn't be protecting them or pretending that this narrative wasn't a horrific day. And Trump incited that riot. He for a month and a half, 2 months, lying about the election being stolen from him. The dude lost and couldn't handle it because he's thin-skinned and weak. He's, as what we all called Democrats after Donald Trump got elected in November of 2016, snowflakes. Donald Trump is King Snowflake. There's no other way to describe him. He's thin-skinned and weak. And the guy's not smart. People talk about being smart. So wrapping this up and going full circle back to the beginning of this video, in that message where Trump announced that he was going to be indicted on Tuesday, he told people, he told his supporters to go to New York City and protest. Ugh. The dude's being investigated for inciting a riot. And now he's telling his people to go and protest because he's going to be charged with a crime and he wants them to obstruct justice and stop him from being indicted. Goodness me. Like, if he wasn't going to be indicted federally from the special counsel for inciting a riot on January 6th, he just dramatically increased the likelihood that that is coming. Again, but with this Manhattan case, everybody just hit a pause button. Everybody just be cautious and relax. Whatever happens, we'll find the charges if and when they come. By the way, there's a potential that he doesn't have inside information. It's not coming. And he's just using this to gin up fundraising because his fundraising had tailed off. And if you are a Republican, oh my goodness, the amount of texts and emails you're getting. I'm anti-Trump and I get them multiple a day. So it is possible that this is just made up, by the way. But if it's not, let's wait and see what the charges are. Let's hear the evidence that is presented before we start to lose our minds being pro-Trump or anti-Trump. That's all I have for you today. Thanks for coming in and listening. I'll catch you on the next one.